What's good, YouTube? And welcome to the house. This is one of the craziest triple down buyouts I've seen in a long time. Junk Synchron going to $200 freaking lowest before the typical market watch out at a 426.9. Not so nice. Don't really pay this any mind on the price tag. It should obviously be coming down. Now, is it one of the nicer looking, you say, 5Ds collectibles? Sure. It comes out of Legendary Collection 5Ds, a $30 MSRP product that has revolving buyouts on it, and the sales rates are actually eyebrow raising through 22, 18, 20, as you see its price history starting to trend up when people paid attention thanks to Dawn of Majesty. If you're waiting on your copy, I would think about either a different version of Junk Synchron that's holographic, or waiting for this price to calm down, as actually today's Market Watch is going to talk a lot about things that were very hype and have calmed down a bit in price, maybe some you should pay attention to, and then others that are probably going to continue going down in price depending. Destiny Hero Draw Hand is an interesting conversation I was having with Master Dinnerflax from the streams, also another YouTuber. He's been looking at the Destiny Hero engine a lot, and he doesn't think this is going to take over or anything, but I would have it as a little bit of a penny stock and just to have access because of this awesome play. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a hero monster, that includes himself, you can make each player draw one card. Now, what's impressive about this is his second effect. During the next standby phase after this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your graveyard but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of Destiny Hero Draw Hand once per turn. So you send him during the previous turn, he revives during the opponent's standby phase, forcing them to draw a card where you can then hit them with a Droll Lock, depending on the strategy they're playing. Droll Lockbird will be exceedingly powerful against them, especially if you're siding 3, so you could either side this as an engine for when you know you're going first and can set up that play, or against matchups where you know Droll is going to really hurt them. An interesting, very cheap Destiny hero over Dasher that's going crazy, or Malicious that ends up working with the engine. I really like that. Dawn of Majesty, if you had on your checklist that I noticed, B-Trooper Scout Buggy Sneak Peek promo is the most expensive card in the set that's not a Starlight. That is so stupid, but on the real note, though, B-Trooper Scout Buggy's been doing nothing but going up. People are calling this Buy Trooper, as in you should buy it, but if the next support isn't that good, it's the Buy Trooper, but I'll be here all day. But there is a vying for the real top spot between Ready Fusion and Aluber, as Aluber's been going down in price slowly, and Ready Fusion's been ticking up. It plays with B-Trooper and several other decks. You don't have Maxi in the TCG, so I do wonder which one will rise to the top and stay there. I personally think Ready Fusion, but you do also have round 2 of Despia support coming up in Burst of Destiny. That's along with B-Trooper. So I think these 3 cards are most likely to vie for the top of the set. I think Ready Fusion has the most generic value, but if B-Trooper support 2.0 is really good, I think this will shoot up, and then there's just that anticipation for the Despias. Starlight Rares. This was a super interesting conversation on stream. John, do you think I should get Lightning Storm? Because it is skyrocketing downwards in price. And this is did the collector rare really affect it all that much? And my answer is, yeah, having another top rarity sometimes hurts the max rarity when people are willing to settle rather than spending their money all the way up, and they can say they just prefer how this other nice version looks, and it's also pretty cool. So you do see this down towards 330 when at one point it was selling for much, much more on the average. You can even see all the way back to 550s, and it just continuously trails down. The original reason for this being so expensive also was that there was no reprint, so the other lowest option was 110, which is now sunk towards that secret rare being 50 instead of 110. So you do see value also sap out from this, which brings us to today's buyout. Triple Tactics Talent going moonrocking towards 770 as we approach the Megatons, and a potential Triple Tactics Talent reprint that's highly likely to happen. This really seems like a weird timing on this buyout, and when we look at the top Starlights that really maintain value, a lot of them have something in common that Lightning Storm and Triple Tactics don't. Apollosa Waifu Tax, IP Masquerena Waifu Tax, Win Waifu Tax, Dogmatica Ecclesia Waifu Tax, Area Waifu Tax, and Chamber Dragon Maid that keeps getting bought out, Waifu Tax. The other top 6 out of 7 Starlights besides Triple Tactics Talent by actual price all have the waifu tax with them. Weird. It's almost like a commentary on our community and we live in a society. But seriously, this fresh buyout, I do think once we have cheaper triple tactics talents, bringing out from the bottom of only having 2 versions to choose from and thinking about which one you want to hold long term. Well, yeah, the Starlight Rare has long-term value. The people buying in aren't immediately going to lose or anything when they spent like 500, 550, but the people panic buying here at 640, 680, 640 trying to finish out the buyout. First off, think about the new price and then the actual fees you would pay through a platform like TCG Player that the seller that sold you these took, and then also shipping, probably insurance at this price, but a lot of people are cheap on their cards. Think about all of the costs that go into the actual sales versus where you're buying versus where you hope to go, or you're just trying to put your money in somewhere that isn't going to be hit by Megatons. The Megatons actually, and reprints actually can affect the highest rarity, and you're seeing an example right over here. But also, metagame-dependent cards, when they float back into a metagame, we see them spike real hard, and we've seen that multiple times with other Starlights too. So DD Crow, Effect Veiler, for example, have definitely shot up. There is potential for that, but realize you're gambling with huge dollars when you're going for these kinds of things, and what really seems to remain towards the top are the ladies. Speaking of, you can use code WhatsGood5 for 5% off and to support the channel directly. I think it's one of Tier Zero's last days on their sale, and it will stack on top of this 15% off over there with tons of different Starlights, deeply discounted in foreign nice languages, looking amazing, and even a couple of English if you look around hard enough at amazing prices. Summoning Curse is the talk of the day. This is an old comment I always pulled out of bulk. I think Yassine's getting credited for this one along. I know Robbie's covered it, but this card has always interested me as a floodgate because it allows the opponent to play to an extent, but it also costs a lot if they don't just draw the out 5 head. If a monster is special summoned, the current controller of that monster or monsters banishes 1 card from their hand. Once per turn during your end phase, pay 500 life points or destroy this card. A super minimal maintenance cost that after you've already built their board really chokes the opponent out of their advantage ability. I do think, though, there's a lot that can go wrong with this card. There's also a lot of cards that get advantages once banished from the hand, because it's not that they banish a random card, they get to choose the card getting banished. So be aware of that depending on the matchup, but still a really interesting tech card to come out and be pointed out. It's one of those great on paper, and then when you start to practice, you see that they can do stuff. Depending on your deck, it doesn't work out so well always. So before rushing towards cards like this, test them out, see how it works for you, and sometimes you'll end up paying more by waiting and trial and erroring, but usually you'll find either this did or did not work for you, and in long term save a bit of money versus that. Legendary Duelist Season 2 boxes are barely above retail when you're buying a case, but I do notice the loose ones are 20. That's because shipping's included, so the people selling are getting about retail as well. I think this will be one of your last chances to get it around this price, though. Once they announce Legendary Duelist Season 3, someday, hopefully, when that happens, I think you see past lineage of certain products go, and this one has so many fan favorites, from Galaxy, Blue Eye, Cyber Dragon, Harpies, just the trains even, and actual solid value with these reprints. Something's going to give a little bit, I think, when Legendary Duelist Season 3 comes, and this was the first really home run with the replacement for special editions. This is one I would consider having sealed if you've been waiting on it. Get it. Also to note, the EU version shows the dice, so I think the American version is better for the gimmick of hiding the dice, and it's similarly priced over on eBay, but there's very few at this price on eBay, and it quickly shoots up. So if you've been thinking on this one, kind of considering going sealed, you skipped on pre-sales, you've drug your heels, Kaiba and Mai on the front, fan favorite cards, I think it's a pretty good place over, say, Starlights, if you are going sealed and considering a bit of a longer Diamond Hands version with a card. Now, talking about that downward value, I remember the Kagari buyouts, like 180, 200 actual sales on those, Shizuku going crazy, and now that we've had Sky Strikers for a bit, these ultimates are starting to come back down way under their market price and available all over. So it's still a bit expensive, but if you were trying to fully hollow out, there is something called price memory where people spent, but sometimes during hype moments, even with that spending, it'll come way down under that, like a ban list, for example. Usually that price memory doesn't stick at all. So we see more realistic prices on these. If you've been waiting, now's a great time to get them, especially with, you know, Sky Striker Ace Rose probably getting a reprint soon. I would hold off on her. I also noticed that, like, once you get those other pieces, people get around to things. Some of those engages are so cheap, like back down to $2 as well. So if you're looking around for Sky Strikers, a lot of the cards are great to get. Eagle Booster. Actually, how many versions of Eagle Booster exist? This is one card that gets played outside of Sky Strikers. I would personally suggest the Super Rare, which is still under $1, where Robbie Cole actually did demonstrate with stun decks when you put a Zeus in the EMZ and can make it unaffected by everything. That's pretty powerful. I would expect to see this be one of the top cards played and teched outside of Sky Strikers in the future, so I'd consider having them. And it's really funny that there's way more supers than there are commons. It just goes that way with the mega pack sometimes. Speedroids in general are back down in price a good bit, and we know it's likely that a lot of them are going to miss reprints in the Legendary Duelist upcoming, but the Legendary Duelist has been moved back forward, so a lot of people aren't looking around, and there's low quantities with reduced prices versus where it was at. So I would consider getting the hollow foil versions of certain Speedroids that you would want, as it's cooled off, people kind of forgot, and then it's going to get its update. People go, oh my gosh, it's here, well I better get this, or this missed its reprint. When it's reasonably priced, it's okay to get the max rarity version that might even get some hype coming out. So kind of pick and choose which Speedroids you want if you're interested in the deck, but you were bummed that the prices were super high. Also, speaking of that deck, and I believe Zolkin brings this out quite commonly, a lot of Crystal Wings are up in price, and the Ghost Rare is at one of its all-time lows. Not quite. It was selling just under very recently, but people are starting to eye this one, and the other versions are going, so I would kind of think about what version of Crystal Wing you want. It could get reprinted in the set too, but if you like, you know, a nice secret rare or something like that, it might be the time to go ahead and get that using my TCG player link in the description down below, costing you nothing extra to support the channel directly for the cards you'd already be buying. When I look around at some 5-head calls, because I mentioned in the other thing, when the 10s are going to get printed and other things get supported from those 10s that people want get, there are things around to look at. And somebody in the Discord brought up Mech Knights. I really like this engine. We've seen purple pop up to 20. We've seen blue pop up to 12, 15. And Gearsu's going to get his reprint and actually works with this engine. And then you can play Orcust, World Legacy, the deck as Kale likes to in our streams. And Gearsu's likely to get a reprint, so people might look this up. But I do want to say there's other reprint fears for this actually out there that aren't the Megatons, obviously. For instance, Gold Series could just put these in as gold letter rares. Konami would pat themselves on the shoulder, as they actually should, for this engine, as I would love to see it get reprint. So there are dangers for this to potentially even get maximum premium gold rare, but gold letter rares too for stuff like this. I could easily see that also in Battles of Legends or something as a reprint. So I would understand why people are also hesitant to buy despite low quantities, even if they've been waiting for this engine at this price. So if it misses reprint season, not bad to go for, but by then it starts to go. So consider your options. Do you like this version? Do you want to wait to see? You know, you're gambling whenever you're playing with opportunity cost in general, but do consider your options of, yeah, it's pretty cheap right now versus what it was. Is it cheap enough for me, or am I going to wait? And finally, I want to applaud the community for the most part, as tons of prices are finally cooling off as we truly approach the Megatons. Those double, triple down buyouts are gone, and I've been ranting on Market Watch about it. You see Ignister Island no longer 30, down towards 20. We see Rose not at 25, 26, down under 20. We see so many cards going down in price and stop being speculated on over, as most things will likely make the 10s. Now, as I did discuss, some things end up missing, naturally, like some TCG exclusive archetypes or other things, but for the most part, $150 access code going down in a great percentage versus the sales it was at. You have Chamber Dragon made really up there despite the Gold Series announcement. It could get double dip reprinted though, and for the most part, things are calming down rationally, even with lower quantities, and by far Phantom Rage has shown the lowest of it. Divine Arsenal Zeus is back under 50. Lulu and Fractal Alpha all super reasonable for their versions, but they'll probably go even lower as we head towards 10. So people really realizing it, starting to try to make those sales, and think about what you personally want out of the 10s versus pouring a bunch of money into the 10s. Like, singles are a lot of the times the way to go if you're after a few things, but with Rise and Eternity Code, tons of people are after things, and understandably, Rise is the last to really fall down in price. In fact, we had a recent Albaz buyout. Now he's sitting back at 33 where he was sitting for a bit. Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. People are like, oh, Leviar missed. This could be what's missing. 5 had calls. Maybe that is one that misses, potentially. But again, whenever you start calling all these cards and holding, you're going to lose a lot more than you're going to gain. But I actually respect that one for some reason. See, I even get suckered into the conversation because it's interesting to think about what will miss, like the Wind Witch engine. But you can't get suckered in overall with your total wallet, because most of the times it's the kitchen sink thrown in. And Droplet then does have its reprint in Battles of Legend, could be shorted over there, not in the 10s. I get it, that Rise is super scary. We've been no special edition, no coolant on a ton of these prices, so I get why people aren't just offloading. And finally, those clickbait articles, you could have some money you didn't know about. Well, this card's pretty true on that. Duelist Saga, Wandering King Wildwind. It's one you might not even bother to look up. It's been going up over time. It used to be $8, $12. Now, market price is around 17, actually 15, but the lowest listings are 14, and quickly up towards 17 with sales at 17. So quite the interesting card to go with Red Dragon Archfiend plays. It's whenever you control a Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack, special summon this from the hand. If you attempt this, you're locked into Synchros for the turn. And then during the main phase, except the turn it's into the graveyard, you get additional resources out of him. So it's basically an extender, level 4, Fiend, Dark play, and is mostly used for the Jack Atlas-like decks. That's some money you could have that you didn't know about, but of course that also mixes into other synchro up decks and combos. Thanks for watching today's Market Watch. What did you think of a lot of the coolant talk? I know we cover buyouts a ton. What's the reason for the buyout? Why is this happening? But I think it's really interesting to point out some penny stonks, some decks that are cooling down even though they have support on the way, because you do get that point of initial announcement, hype, oh my gosh, it's from Japan, oh, I'm gonna need this, and then cool down, wait to see what's in, oh, it's almost here, spike. A lot of people are forgetting some of these, and I thought it would be fun to bring them up.